right, next one. How would you approach getting a GMB for a rank and rent site? I wouldn't right now. That's kind of the whole point. That's why I haven't really, I just talked about this at POFU Live. That's what my whole entire presentation was about. It was about a whole new method that is about rank and rent that does not require Google Business Assets. So I wouldn't get one because guys, the problem is the last few times I've tried to verify a Google Business profile, it triggers either video verification, or if I've been lucky enough to be able to get just a normal, postcard verification, then it suspends almost instantly. Once it's verified, it suspends, or it redirects to video verification. And so I spent months avoiding it because I really just didn't have the bandwidth or the desire to try to figure out a workaround. But eventually I decided, that I had neglected my lead gen business for too long this year, expanding it. So I worked on for the last several months on developing another method, which is what I presented and taught about at POFU Live this past weekend. So if you're in the mastermind, you'll get all of that information. It will be dripped out slowly over the next couple of months because it wouldn't be fair to the POFU Live attendees if I just gave it away. I wish I could, but I won't do that. So I will drip out bits and pieces of it. And then probably in December or January, usually it's January, but I might go a little bit earlier this year. I'll release the whole kind of package. But if you're joining the mastermind, you'll get that. I developed a WordPress site. We're talking about developing an HTML site builder that will deploy these rank and rent sites in a very particular structure. And there's a whole process and a method for building that up that does not require a Google Business Asset. Here's the point that I'm getting to. Eventually, once you have validated and solidified the entity in Google, which you can do even without a Google Business profile, then you could request a Google Business profile. Sometimes in the past, Google would just publish a Google Business profile anyway. It would be unclaimed, but it would be published, meaning live and can be found in search. But there's the chance. I haven't got that far yet because none of these projects that I've developed this method for are mature enough. They're not established enough to attempt this. But I know in the past when I've had lead gen assets that I did not have Google Business Assets for, but I had built them up with off-page signals, branded profiles, syndication networks, schema, all kinds of stuff that eventually Google would publish a Google Business profile for it that then all I had to do was claim. Like, in other words, I didn't initiate, like go to business.google.com and then say, I'm going to submit a listing. No, I just had built up an organic presence and established an entity. And then Google eventually just creates a Google Business profile that's unclaimed, right? And then you can claim it. And that's been able to be verified or claimed via email and or phone call. I've had that happen a couple of times. Now, that was previous to all this video verification shit. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue or if that's still possible now. It's in part why I developed this process so that I can find out. Within the next 2 months or so, the projects that I first started testing this method on will be mature enough, established enough that I may very well be able to do that. I don't know. That's just kind of an assumption. But in the past, I've been able to do that, meaning if you go out and put all of the local signals in place, citations, everything else, like without actually having a Google Business profile, you can feed Google with enough validating data points that it could potentially produce a Google Business profile for you that only then needs to be claimed. And again, I don't know whether that claim process now will require video verification. In the past, I've been able to do it with either an email sometimes or a text message or a phone call. I don't know that that's still possible. I will find out for sure within the next probably 2 months or so, because I've got some of these projects I've started building out already. And I've got 2 more that I built out just for the training for POFU Live. So again, how would I approach that? I would focus on, now, if you're not in the US, you might still be able to just verify like normally. But what I would suggest would be to do similar to what I just mentioned, which would be to build the website, build several branded assets that are all interlinked so that you start to establish, start to validate the entity, right? Again, that's part of why we do what we do with branded profiles and an interlinking when possible, is because it helps to confirm to Google that this is a real valid business, a real valid entity, And that's what you're doing. You're helping Google to build a knowledge graph for that local entity. And you can do that without a Google business asset. Again, I can't give away everything that I talked about at POFU Live here, but there are some very specific strategies that you can do in lieu of having a Google business profile to establish a local entity. And I teach all of that in the stuff that I just taught about in POFU Live. Okay. But that's what I would do, is get all those local signals in place first, the validating assets in place, and then approach it at a later time once the entity has indeed been established. Well, how do you establish an entity? Like, right, how do you know it's been established? Well, if it had a Google business profile, it'll pop a knowledge panel when you do a search for it. But there are some other ways, doing a brand search, does the website pop up first? Is the whole first page of the search results populated with nothing other than branded profiles associated with that specific property? Like, that's how you can start to identify if you've established an entity with Google, right? If you do a brand search and only a couple, 2 or 3 of the first page results are associated with the brand that you're building, then it's not an established entity yet, because Google is returning other results in the search for a brand for that brand search, which means Google has not identified that as the actual entity for that search term. But once you get the first, couple of pages really populated with almost entirely your own branded assets, that's how you know that it's now starting to be recognized as an entity in Google, right? So there you go. It's definitely more challenging now, guys. There's no question, but that's the name of the game. That's going to push a lot of people out of the lead gen business. It's good for those of us that are willing to put forth the additional effort, right? Think about it as a way, like, these types of updates thin the herd, right? It thins the herd, and only the people that have the most fortitude, right? Testicular fortitude, right? Those that are willing to put forth enough effort are the ones that will succeed. Most people will quit, tuck their tail between their legs and run. So anyway, next one, the site will have its own content and multiple silos. So this must be a continuation of the previous question. The site will have its own content and multiple silos with landing pages for subniches rented out to the different clients. Would you get a GMB for the main site as marketing service and then separate ones for the others across key cities? They would be service areas. Would it make much difference? Well, I mean, that's kind of what I did with my Tree Care HQ agency, right? My tree service marketing agency is I have a Google business asset associated with the directory site, and the service area is the United States or North America, one or the other. But then I have some local Google business profiles, some local for lead gen that fall under the same brand, under the Tree Care HQ brand. It just has the location as a modifier in the name. So Tree Care HQ city, right? And those are for local lead gen, for generating leads for tree service contractors. So that is how I would do it. But again, good luck. I'm saying that. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying good luck trying to verify Google business profiles right now. Very, very difficult to do unless you have a real valid business location that you can verify via video and documentation. If you have all of that, then by all means, yeah, do that. But if you don't have that, good luck. I mean, again, I mean this with all sincerity. I wish you luck. I hope that you're able to do it, but it's very unlikely. So I would start thinking about other methods that do not require Google business assets, if possible. That's what I taught about specifically. It includes organic ranking. It also includes Google Ads. Part of that is Google Ads. So if you can start to generate leads both through Google Ads as well as the organic section, it becomes easier to verify a Google business profile because you are validating, you're forcing Google to recognize that there's a real company here, right? And I don't know that that's still going to make it easier to create or verify a Google business profile. I don't know yet. The method that I have developed is too new. It's not mature enough, but that's my hope. So we'll find out.